Hi guys, it's Joel again, and I'm going to be doing another video here for you. And this video is called Stop the Madness, or more so, Stop the Confusion. Now you have to understand one thing. I get calls every day from doctors really complaining about torque wrenches and screw sizes and what screwdriver do I need and so forth and so on. Megagen is a very easy system to work with because we only have one screw size throughout the whole line, and that's a .048 hex. Again, .048, which is 1.2 millimeter. All right, but other companies use different hex sizes, so I'm going to point out a few of the different hex sizes that are on the market right now, and then we're going to talk about the different applications of the engagement mechanism of the different torque wrenches and torque tips. All right, so here's one. It has a green base to it, and it says 050 on it, .050, or it's also 1.25 millimeter. All right, just to name three companies off the top of my head that use the .050 driver. Astra uses .050, BioHorizons uses .050, and Zimmer uses .050. So that driver right there is a .050 driver. All right, it's only 0.2 of a millimeter different than the .048 driver from Megagen, but your .050 driver will not work in a .048 screw hex size, for instance. Okay. Another size out there on the market that typically Noble Biocare and Strawman use is this. Now let me see if we can zoom in on this to see it clearly. It's not so easy to see because it's a funky little star grip, let's call it. It looks like a star, and that one is your torque tip insert driver from Salvin actually, but this one works on your Noble Biocare and your Strawman drivers. Now here, just to show you, is a Strawman driver. It looks like this, but it has that same star configuration on the end there. Even though it's the body is a little bit different, this is considered a hand driver, and we'll go into all this in just a second. But this little driver right here with a square end to it, that's considered an insert driver that goes into your torque wrench. So these are two different things. One is a hand driver, the other is an insert driver that fits into a torque wrench. But more so than that, again, it's your star grip. So really, the three main drivers in all of implant dentistry, again, are the .048 driver, which is Megagen 3i, old Brandemark stuff and others, 050 driver, and the star driver. With these drivers, with those three drivers, 95% of what comes walking in your door, you can deal with. All right. And as I pointed out to you earlier, this torque driver, or excuse me, this little torque insert driver from Salvin, these little drivers are about $35, $40, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that price, but I think they're somewhere around there. They're very, very inexpensive. Now, one of the complaints that I get all the time is, well, why doesn't every company make it standard? And that's just not possible. So everybody should get three of these drivers, at least have three drivers in their stash of armamentarium: 048, 050, and star driver. This, again, will cover 95% of implant cases that come walking through your door. And because these things are so inexpensive, there's no excuse for people not to have these drivers. Okay? Let me just emphasize that. Now, what's really important is how do these drivers engage the different torque wrenches that are on the market. Here is a Megagen torque wrench. As you can see, it has a spring-loaded mechanism right here, and this is how you regulate the amount of torque right there. And I'm going to show you that one just a little bit. Here's a Strawman torque wrench, and it's very similarly designed, and it's again a spring-loaded mechanism. Here is a old LifeCore torque wrench, and these, you can hear how the head typically breaks over. And this torque wrench is only calibrated to 10 Newton centimeters, but these are not like the spring-loaded torque drivers, which the spring-loaded torque drivers, quite honestly, are much more accurate. And the reason they're more accurate is because they rely on the spring, which doesn't go out of calibration. However, when you sterilize these type of torque wrenches several times, they tend to build up corrosion in between the neck, right there, as you can see. So you have to oil these quite a bit, actually. And when you're not using these type of torque wrenches here, with the type that the neck that breaks over, it's best that you leave it in the broken over position like this. It helps it stay calibrated longer. So again, however, when you go use it, you put it in that position like so. All right? So when you're not using it, you leave it like that. But again, less accurate than these. This right here is actually a ratchet. It's only a ratchet, and the reason I point this out is because there is no torque mechanism on it. All right? A lot of people think that these are torque wrenches, and they're not. This is a ratchet. This is only for driving something down into place. Notice, by the way, this square insert driver that I showed you earlier that has the little funky star grip to it. Okay? Anything that's square on that end right there engages the mechanism or square drive mechanism, which fits right into there like so. And then you can use it either righty-tighty or lefty-loosey. I'm in the lefty-loosey position because you can see the arrow going down, or in the righty-tighty position. And you can hear it go. So you can hear the ratcheting effect. Okay? But that is only a ratchet. Then you have another type of torque wrench on the market. This one is a multi-torque torque wrench from Salvin Dental again. And it comes in 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, all the way to 60 Newton centimeters of torque. So these type torque wrenches, again, use this square drive mechanism, again, that fits just in there like so. And again, when you reach your torque amount, see the arrow fits obviously in your clockwise position. It'll go like that, and you can adjust the amount of torque you want on it here on the handle right there. So right now it's set for 15 Newton centimeters. There's your Newton centimeter mark. There is your amount of torque that's set. So that one's at 15. Then it can go to 20, 25, and so forth. This one is a user-friendly one as well. But again, you really have to maintain these because these can get buildup and rust and so forth in the middle here. So you want to make sure and oil these periodically. So that, again, most companies, if you notice, are going over to these type of design of of torque drivers, of some sort of torque mechanism on there. And the reason is because they rely only on the spring, and the spring does not go out of torque. See here? As I push on the spring, it has a graduated amount on there. That's 15, that's 25, that's 35, and that's 45. So the Megagen torque wrench is actually quite a universal torque wrench. The reason I say that is because, again, when I get phone calls, the very first thing that I ask is, Dr. Smith, Dr. X, what type of torque wrench do you have? And that's very, very important. Well, why is it important? Because the engaging mechanism of the torque wrench tells me everything. So if they have a Noble BioCare torque wrench, for instance, I can get them one of these. This is a .048 or 1.2 millimeter latch engagement tip. Now notice, let me point that right there like that. Notice that is only a latch engaging mechanism. Also notice the thinness of the shank. So the reason I point that out is because this is definitely different than this. You see what I'm saying? So these type of square insert drives are actually stronger than these, because this smaller shanked torque tip can actually become out of tolerance. So you have to check these periodically, because these latch drivers, all the pressure and all the torque is right here on the latch engagement mechanism. Whereas look at how thick this driver is. So these will not become out of tolerance. These can come out of tolerance, so you need to be careful with these. Okay? So again, there are really two types of torque tips or insert drivers on the market: square engagement mechanisms and latch engagement mechanisms. So let me show you how the Megagen torque wrench works first. And the reason I'm going to do that is because, again, you'll see how much more universal this torque wrench is relative to the graduated amounts of different torque settings here, which again are 15, 25, 35, and 45. All right, and you want to make sure that this arrow right here is always in the righty-tighty position or clockwise position, which is right there. Now, here is our hand driver. This is our short hand driver. So after you remove the healing abutment, and you're going to place your, whether it's an impression coping or your final screw, whatever, after this is only a hand driver, as you can clearly see. Because it's only a hand driver, it doesn't come apart. I'm literally pulling on the thing and it doesn't come apart. All right? So this hand driver will simply slide right into this torque wrench like so. Okay? Now, this torque wrench now has a torque tip in it. And it's an 048 driver tip. And what you do is you put this into the screw. You hold this down with long axis pressure. You want to make sure and do that because you don't want to pull this like this from the body out here. You only want to pull it from the spring, because on the spring, that's where your torque amount is going to be digressed, not digressed, but basically progressed down the length of the screw. Okay, it's going to be transferred from your spring down the body of the torque wrench handle to the actual screw. So you're pushing down on this with long axis pressure, and you're pulling on your handle like this. And you can literally read how much torque you have here. So it's going to reach 15, then 25, then 35. Now with the any-ridge system, because of the 5-degree Morse taper, you can go from in between 25 and 35 and you're fine. It's a range. Because of the very definitive connection of the 5-degree Morse taper of the any-ridge, you don't have to necessarily rely 100% on the torque amount because it's such a strong connection. However, let's say with an external hex connection, okay, something that doesn't have much physics built into the connection, or even an internal hex connection like Zimmer, which doesn't have a Morse taper built into it. At least it has a friction fit on the bottom of it. It's a 1.5 friction fit. But a lot of people say it really just doesn't grab that well. But anyway, when you have a Morse taper like Astra, which is an 11-degree Morse taper, or Ankylos, which is a 5.7-degree taper, or any-ridge, which is a 5-degree taper, or anybody else with a Morse taper, you really want to make sure and put the full amount on there. But the more parallel the Morse taper, okay, the more definitive the connection. So again, any-ridge is a 5-degree Morse taper, so you can go on a range from 25 to 35. All right. Now, that's a short handle for posterior. Let me pull that out. Then I'm going to grab the long handle here, which goes in here, like so. And now you can see the length of the shank is longer, and these are more for anterior cases. So that, again, long axis pressure, and you're pulling down the length of the bar. And that force is being transferred down the spring, down the body of there, and it goes down the length of the screw. So as you're pulling this, you don't want to pull it from the body, you only want to pull it from here, which is the the spring handle here. All right? Now I can't do both at the same time because I have no screw giving me that resistance. Otherwise I would be able to. So I'm basically depicting it by doing this. I'm holding the body of the torque wrench and doing that right there. All right? So this is your Megagen torque wrench. But guess what? Now, that's with your hand drivers. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add this to the torque wrench. If you focus on that right there, that portion right there is a square insert, or basically it's called a square conversion handle. All right? A torque conversion handle that has a square insert here. That means anything that's square, as this is, will fit in there. here is a driver for an implant system. All right, you can see that's not a torque tip. All right, that's for an implant. That square mechanism engages in here. So most implant companies use this square engagement connection here as a standard connector for their torque wrenches and whatever the case may be. If it's not this square connector, it's this latch driver. Again, and you can see how bigger and bulkier your square is, so these bigger square engagement drivers are actually much better than your latch drivers, which can get out of tolerance. Because this square, skinnier shank doesn't hold up as much torque as these big square drives like so. Now, back to this. If this torque conversion handle was not put into this torque wrench, my point is, how would this work? You see what I'm saying? So this has to be able to convert, have this little conversion handle to be able to work with different implant systems. So you basically snap it right in there like so. And again, anything that's square will fit right in there. Now I'm able to use this as a torque wrench. So they do make different insert handles. And again, Salvin has these. They make them in 050, 04A, 035, square drive, which by the way, just so I can show something to you, that yellow handle there, that's a square drive tip, which 3i still uses. So there's all sorts of different torque tips out there. The most important thing is this right here. How does that torque tip engage your torque wrench? Okay? So here's another little tool that Megagen has. Let's say you have a Noble BioCare torque wrench, right? And you want to use a driver from Megagen. Well, we have these. We also have these tips here, like so, that fit into your Noble BioCare torque wrench. So you don't always have to buy a whole new torque wrench, is my point. And I'm saying that because a lot of reps will try to sell you and they say, no, 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 you really need our torque wrench. And that's just not the case. I'm sorry, but that is absolutely not the case. And I emphasize that because, again, a lot of these torque wrenches are universal if you have the conversion handle to convert it. So here's what we do. We also have a little conversion handle for a latch driver. So let's say you really like your latch type tips, or you have latch tips. Well, here is a latch, let me hold it like this, a latch conversion tip that it has the same body to engage our torque wrench, but this engagement mechanism right there is different. You notice it's a much smaller hole, and obviously it's made specifically for the latch. So this latch driver will fit right into here like so. You push down and twist at the same time, and then it'll just, boom, drop down into place. So now, guess what you have? You now have a hand driver, okay? You have a hand driver like so. So you can use your latch driver as a hand driver first, whether it's removing a healing abutment or placing the final screw, and you're not ready to use the torque wrench. Now what you do is you grab your little mechanism that you put together here with your torque conversion handle, with your latch, conversion handle, and your latch torque tip. You're ready to put it into the torque wrench. So your torque wrench is really made up of a couple of different parts and pieces. This is just not a torque wrench all in one piece. And that's why Megagen decided to put your hand driver, okay, and your torque tip in one piece. So here is your hand driver there, both short and long, but they fit directly into the Megagen torque wrench like so. All right? And again, you're ready to use this as a torque wrench. Okay, so we've covered a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. Now, let's show you something else. Here is just for compatibility issues, here is a Strawman torque wrench. And by the way, Strawman torque wrench and the Megagen torque wrench are very, very similar, as you can see. This one's just labeled Strawman. Now I took this apart for you so you could see how it works. This is the inner portion here that you should actually every once in a while take apart and oil. All right, and it's the same thing with Megagen torque wrench. You should take it apart and oil it. Now here's how it goes inside. It basically screws right into the base there, into the body of the torque wrench, and it screws down like so. Now you want this portion here to always be touching the body of the torque wrench like so. All right, so now it's all one piece. And again, you want to make sure that that arrow is in the righty-tighty position, not the lefty-loosey. All right, so here's your Strawman torque tip. And let me show you too. Let me drop this here. All right, here's your Strawman torque tip again. Your handle and your star grip are all one piece. Again, it doesn't come apart. So this makes this Strawman torque wrench a little less user-friendly. Well, why is that? Because if you have a square tip from Biohorizons, let's say, or Zimmer, it's not going to fit into here. It's not going to fit into there. You have to have that conversion handle that I showed you earlier that goes into your Megagen torque wrench, and it fits right into the Strawman torque wrench too. So now if you happen to have a Strawman torque wrench, see there it says Strawman, now your handle and your torque wrench is a more universal torque wrench. And your torque settings on your Strawman setting are 0. Then it's, let's see here, the second one is 10. Is that 10 or 15? No, I'm sorry. It's 0, and then it's 15 right there. So your second mark is 15, and then your last one here is 35. So it really only has two markings on there, which is 15 and 35. Well, obviously, right in between 15 and 35 is 25. All right, so you don't necessarily have to have the mark on there to know that that's 25. So that's 35 there, that's 15 there, and that's 0 there. So this one is a little bit less user-friendly because you don't have your conversion handle here. But again, the reason I show you this is because anything square will fit now into this Strawman torque wrench, and it makes your Strawman torque wrench now a more universal type torque wrench. All right. Also, here's the Megagen hand driver. It fits directly into your Strawman torque wrench as well. Again, I'm just showing you these tricks here because a lot of this stuff is interchangeable. You just need to know the little tricks on how all this stuff works. All right? All right, now that's your Strawman torque wrench. Now, I showed you this earlier. This is your breakaway type torque wrench, or where the neck breaks over like so. And how you can basically do that is work it with your thumb, and you break it over. And again, you have to oil these to make sure that it stays calibrated correctly. But again, how you do this is only working with anything that has a square drive, as you can see there. So this one, it fits right into there like so. So let me show it to you now. So there is your torque wrench. And once you reach 10 Newton centimeters, it's going to break over. Now you have no way of regulating the amount of torque that you're going. So if you continue to pull with this torque wrench, you have the possibility of fracturing whatever screw you're looking at. So these torque wrenches are not as user-friendly as the other type torque wrenches. All right. So again, it's a square engagement mechanism. Fits anything square. Fits right on top of there. And Zimmer still uses these. Biohorizons uses these. But again, you really have to oil these down and really maintain them to make sure that they stay calibrated correctly. So again, you want to hear that little clicking noise like so, because the neck will break over. But you also want to, when you're not using it, leave it like so, and it'll stay calibrated longer. And make sure and oil it. Okay? So that's that one. I showed you the ratchet earlier. I'm just going to quickly refresh that. Ratchet has no torque mechanism to it, and it's just used as a ratchet. And then, again, your Salvin, it's called Salvin torque, your adjustable type torque wrench. Square and latch. So that's really the moral of the story. How does your torque tip, how does your torque insert, let me grab a torque insert. How does your torque insert engage your torque wrench? That is the most important thing, because again, if you have these, the Strawman and Megagen type torque wrench, you can convert them into different type torque wrenches to where they work with different systems. So you don't have to buy a 3i or a whatever Nobel or whatever type torque wrench, because again, Sullivan Dental has these torque tips for every company on the market. All right. Okay, let's see. I've covered that. I think that should be good. So this is just a review of, again, the different types of torque wrenches, how they work, how they operate. Don't get frustrated. Okay, go to Sullivan and buy a .048, a .050, and a star driver tip to work with your torque wrench system, and you'll have 95% of, again, what patients have walking into what patients might have possibly walking into your office, because those are the three drivers that are the main thing in all of implant dentistry: 050, 048, and the star drive. I hope this has helped. If you have any questions, you can always email me at joel.gonzalez@megagenus.com, and I'm going to implement this little video into a more thorough video that I'm going to post online for everybody's edification. All right, you guys take care, and we'll talk to you soon.